Bravemaker Show is hosted by Tony Gaffestone and Christina Jackson. Thanks for tuning in. It's showtime.
What's up, everybody? It is showtime. My name is Tony Gaffestone. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am in the weirdest place in Los Angeles, outside of a grocery store that is supposedly a Starbucks, on my way to the airport, running late, but I'm making it happen. It's what you do. I am a Caucasian man, pronouns he, him, his, with a green hat. This is Bravemaker green. Glasses and a white t-shirt. I am an actor and a filmmaker, and you can find me in all the socials at Tony Gaffestone. My website is tonygaff.com. I love doing this show and talking to creative people from all across the world with my friend, collaborator, and producer of our next film, Go Veronica Go, Miss Christina Ray Jackson.
Hey, Tony, what's going on? Glad you made it. I'm Christina Ray Jackson, coming to you from Sun City, Lincoln, California. My pronouns are he, she, they. I am queer. I am an African-American woman, and I'm rocking the Bruce Lee swag today with some short, shaggy blonde hair and a red lip, and I'm ready to rock and roll. You can find me at Christina Ray Jackson on IG and on my website at ChristinaJackson.com.
Well, we always start the show before we bring our special guest with the question of what are you doing? Well, one thing are you doing to brave your way toward your creative goals? What was this week for you?
I did something so cool, and I got to share that with you and the whole Bravemaker team. I made my first pitch deck, and it was so awesome. Yeah, right? And we got to share it with the team, and it's turning out pretty awesome. I got to use some art from Tony's beautiful daughter. It's really special. It's turning into like a real passion project, and I'm excited to bring this film to life and to get this money. Yeah, that's what it's all about, right?
So good. Thank you. And it was really fun to look at. And part of my braving my way this week is being in LA and making meetings and talking about our projects and trying to forge relationships with executives and people who can help take the Bravemaker brand and film slate to the next level. It was a little discouraging, I'll be honest, some of the meetings, but it was made up for it with some of the friendships that have been forged through Bravemaker, through CineQuest, which our film is at this week. Got to hang out with Nick Misla, so huge shout out to Nick Misla, Nadine Cracker, Anthony Caravella. Just much love to Ali Mills and all the people here in LA. It's so good, y'all. Keep going after your goals. Do not give up. Brave your way. If you are doing something significant, let us know in the chat. We would love to shout you out today. And let's get to our special guest. Christina, why don't you introduce who we have on the show today?
We have an amazing, beautiful guest on the show. We're actually going to show some of his music, which we actually have not done on the show yet. And I'm really excited to share some of his pieces. Welcome, Zak Sandler, to the show.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Zak, feel free to give your introduction, where you are, a physical description for our inclusive audience, and anything else you want to say about yourself and your role today, and we'll jump right in.
I'm Zak Sandler. I'm calling in from Washington, D.C. This is my apartment, our deck. Very lucky to have a deck here. I am a white man wearing a white shirt with these little triangles with dots in them, which I think are sort of like third eyes, so I love that.
Nice.
And I'm on Natachank Piscataway land. And yeah, I'm really like to acknowledge my privilege as a white, straight, cisgender man. And we'll be talking about mental health on the show. And I just want to say that I've been very lucky to have really top-notch mental health care. And I know that not everybody has that. I'm very lucky.
Thank you for acknowledging the native land that you are living on. I think that's something we have had once or twice, and I really appreciate when people do that. And that's a good reminder for us to be aware of that for our future. So thank you, Zak.
Sure. And I forgot to say my pronouns are he, him.
Very good. Beautiful. We're going to jump right in. So I'm not just an actor, I'm a comic book writer, and I love me some origin stories. So Zak, if you could please share with us, where were you born and raised, and how has your journey uniquely prepared you for the work you're doing today?
I was born and raised here in Washington, D.C., in Georgetown. And I've been playing piano since I was 5, singing in opera since I was 9. and playing or singing in musicals since high school. And in college, I got into writing musicals. Also in college, when I was 20, I was a junior at Yale, and that's when I had my first depressive and then manic episodes. And I went about 9 years without telling many people. I was afraid and ashamed, and I thought it might hurt my job opportunities. It might make it hard to get good health insurance. So it wasn't until 9 years later, when I had a second manic episode, that I accepted that bipolar as part of myself, and I started writing about it. And so this show you'll hear some more about, called Inside My Head, has been developing in many forms since 2015. So for those of us who don't like math, that is 7 years, in fact. 7 years.
And before we get to the musical, I just want to back up a little bit to talk about what would you want to say to people in a similar experience where they're experiencing bipolar episodes or depressive episodes, but there's a lot of shame and fear around that? What would you want to say to them?
I like to say that there's no shame in being who we are. And it took a while for me to get there. But I know it's this fear that others around us maybe won't accept us or won't understand. And that does happen sometimes. But I found that, for example, if I apply for a job and the people don't want to work with me because of my mental health condition, and I like to say condition rather than illness, if that's the case, then I don't want to work with them anyway. So let me find a job, let me find friends who are going to be supportive of that part of me.
I love that.
Right
That's
on.
perfect.
Yeah, no shame in being who we are. And I'll tell you, from your bio that you sent over, I'm really interested to talk about the learnings of language and how you share your stories specifically. I think I was just telling somebody today, I hope we all can be continual learners. I have seen my ignorance and my lack of knowledge and awareness be so problematic, and conversations like these where I learn. So talk about how you frame your condition, and what that looks like in your art and your craft and in the business of just communicating about who you are, because I think that's really important, and I think that's something we all could learn from today.
In terms of language, I preferred that term mental condition to mental illness, and also I try not to say bipolar disorder. I talk more about bipolar because I feel like those words can be stigmatizing. They can imply that there's something wrong with me, and I don't think there is, at least not due to bipolar. There's plenty wrong with me. And it also creates this separation between those of us who have diagnosed or diagnosable conditions from everyone, because I really think that everyone has something. And we can all relate to each other in some way, even if it's not on the diagnosable spectrum.
So we're talking to Zak Sandler, and you can find him on Instagram at bipolar_Broadway. And a cool thing about your story is, as a person with these mental conditions, it doesn't forbid you from pursuing your dreams and your goals and having this really amazing life. And I like taking off the word disorder, because we have so many things that have been villainized in our identities and who we are, things that are out of our control, some of them. And so thank you for that. I want to get better at acknowledging that. And as I speak of these things, to do it in such a way that, is honoring. So can you talk about, because we all can identify with, being human beings who are flawed for whatever reasons, and they don't have to do with our conditions, but we're trying to make it and go after our hopes and live out our created purposes in the world. And you have been on Broadway in some really cool spaces, with Wicked and different things. So talk about that. Talk about how you got there and what it took to make that happen.
Sure. So I'll go two ways. I'll go with the Broadway part, and I'll also go with the how can we all relate to each other in these ways. I think on that latter point, the way is that we all have emotions, and some of them can be very stigmatized even. For example, anger, to me, anger is one that we don't like talking about. We don't like admitting either to ourselves or other people that we have that emotion, and yet we all do. So we can talk more about this later, but I do have a company I'm starting, part of which includes inner leadership, and that involves characterizing emotions. So we'll come back to that.
Mhm.
In terms of the Broadway stuff, I've been really fortunate. I played, sort of a funny story. I've loved Wicked since college, and moved to New York a year after I graduated. And very early on in my time there, I was the assistant music director for a show that my friend Marshall Paylett wrote. And the music director is a guy named Ben Cohn, and he was the keyboard one player for Wicked. So he had my dream job, and I told him at the end of the process, hey, I'd love to sub for you. And he said, oh, that'd be great, but our roster is full. And so I had this conversation with him probably 4 or 5 times over the next 2.5 years. Same answer every time. And then finally one day I said it, and he said, oh, you know what? Someone just dropped out. Why don't you hop in for us? And that's how it
awesome.
started. Yeah.
Can I jump in here, as Zach touched a little bit on his work with anger and being comfortable with talking about anger and feeling that emotion? And he has composed a stunning piece called Anger. And I'd like to play a little clip of that now. And let me know how the volume is on this. I'm going to turn it up.
Well, hold on. I
But
can play
Zach,
it. I can play it through here. I can play
Okay.
it through here. Yeah.
All right, very
let
good.
me do that. It's on SoundCloud. Is that correct? So is that a shareable link? Because I have that link and I'll pull it up through here. But is that a link we can share out to our audience here?
The Anger is not uploaded yet. That's an MP3 file that Christina has, and you might
Oh,
have
okay.
as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I can do that. Hold on.
Okay.
Let's try.
I'll say that this was not a pre-composed piece. It was a moment in which I felt angry, and I sat down, and this is what came out.
That's amazing. And that's captured in it. I felt that in that. And
I'm
Tony,
wrong.
let me know
I'm
if you want
wrong,
me to.
Christina. You go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry, do it. It will not pull up
Okay.
through here.
All right. I'll play it. And then if it's not that great, I'll send it to you. All right. Here we go. This is Anger by Zak Sandler. So that is just a little sneak peek of that piece. That's not the entirety of it. Zach, if you could speak a little bit more about how this is not a composed piece, this is kind of a spontaneous combustion of creativity. Can you talk a little bit about what led up to this and then sitting down and recording this?
It's an idea I've been playing with for a few months, and I have this vision. At first, I would have the feeling, and then I would try to write like a little jingle for the emotion. So I'd sit down, I'd try one thing, try another until it clicked. And then at some point, I felt the more organic approach might be more powerful. And so I have now a vision that I'll create this SoundCloud playlist called Emotions Speak, where anybody can upload their creation of their emotion, whether it's music or poetry or dubstep or anything. And then also can be a place where we come when we don't want to create necessarily, but we want to hear how other people have expressed it and identify with that. Does that answer your question? I may have.
It does. And that is such a beautiful endeavor. Expressing sometimes challenging emotions can be difficult for some people. Seems like that's your superpower. You've really tapped into finding a way to have all your emotions serve you in some way. Can you talk about how you have become so comfortable with emotions like anger, talking about it, creating pieces about it, sharing your work, and encouraging other people, to say, "Hey, it's okay. How are you expressing your emotions, through music?"
Thanks for that question. Anger, interestingly enough, was my wonderful fiance gave me a great tool for that, Lena, and it's pretty disturbing if you haven't tried it before, but it works. And that is, I imagine the person I'm angry with and doing the absolute worst, most grotesque things I can to them until at a certain point, my body's like, okay, you've gone far enough. And at that point, then that anger is released. And that is an example of this characterization I was speaking about of the emotions. So I actually will name and draw and visualize that character. My anger, I've visualized as this, what do I call it? Like a bandito. He's got two guns, one like this and one like this, and he's shooting them. And so when I feel angry, I can go into that visual and sit with it until it releases. And I actually feel now this release in my body once it has been, I don't want to say processed because that feels impersonal. I think emotions are like children that need to be heard and cared for. So once that emotion of anger feels like it's been heard, then this tension in my body, it's like it's hard to describe, but it's like something around here in my mid chest area just was like that.
And Zach, you shared that you have been you have benefited from some pretty amazing therapy, and not everyone has access to medical providers and therapists the way that you have been. How have they helped you? What are some tools you can teach, for the rest of us who don't have access to that, or who haven't had the courage to reach out and say, I'm dealing with some challenging emotions. What can I do about them?
It's so important to accept that we need help as a first step. And but to get more to your point about the care, I have been in the care of psychiatrists. I don't love the way I said that. I have seen psychiatrists ever since I started. My first episode was in 2006, so 16 years now. I've been on various medications that whole time. I will say it can be quite a process. There's a song in the show called Inside My Head called Brain Magic, where basically the doctor is saying, we have no idea how these meds work or if they're going to work for you. So we're just guessing. It's magic. And I can say that I have been on 14 different psych meds in the last 16 years, some of which were on different doses. And I'm very grateful that it seems like I'm on a good regimen right now, but it takes patience. And then also I'll say for psychiatrists, it's so personal. Each one is so different. And it's been really important for me to find people who are collaborative, not saying this is what you need to do. It's more of a, here's my suggestion, how does this feel to you? And they trust me and I trust them. And with the in therapy similarly since 2006, there's a lot of different modalities, as many of you probably know. I've tried a lot of different things from the more psychodynamic perspective, talking about childhood and attachments, talking about emotions under the surface. My most recent therapist, very different. He has a more here and now approach, and there's a lot of, it's not about the childhood, it's about what's going on now. That's the most I can say. And again, super important to have someone you trust. You can say anything to them, and also they will challenge you. This is one thing
Okay.
I loved about my current therapist. My first appointment, I came in there, and I think what happened was he ended the session early, and I got angry because I hadn't gotten my full time I paid for. And he said, well, the way I work is that if we're done after 45 minutes, then we stop. And if we need 5 minutes beyond 60 minutes, then we'll do 5 minutes beyond 60 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but he said, no, you're going to do it this way.
Very good. So it's a collaborative process. It's good to be challenged, although it might be uncomfortable at first. Accept that you need help and be brave enough to say that you need help, and then be patient, is what I'm hearing. Be very patient. And so I'd like to jump in here and talk about how you came up with the idea for your musical, and you've started that journey to bring that musical to life into audiences. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So it started in 2015, and I just had the second manic episode, which was also my second hospitalization. And this one was really different. The first time I'd had a really traumatic hospital experience. This one was actually quite pleasant for a hospital. And my wife at the time suggested that I start writing about my mental condition. And at first it was this show called Something About Me. And it wasn't totally autobiographical. It was about a character named Mark who was based on me. And it was partly about mental health, but also about my friends from college and writing, the process of becoming a writer. And that evolved then into a show called A Bit Too Much About Me, in which I was on stage as the narrator telling the audience, this is my story. And there was an actor playing younger me as I went through my journey. And then there were 3 other actors playing these parts of my brain. There was the paranoia, religious visions, and Charlie, who is the name of my mania. So that was really the first time I owned it and said, here I am, this is me. And not only the bipolar, there was stuff about my relationships. I talked about cheating on people, and it was very vulnerable, but I felt like it was really freeing to do it. And so that then transformed into this idea of how can we make it more focused on the mental health specifically. And that's when it started becoming inside my head. And so now the version I'm doing is actually a solo version where I play myself, and I've pre-recorded the voices of my depression, mania, and paranoia, and they sing back to me during the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, this sounds so fascinating. We are with Zak
Yeah.
Sandler today, talking about his new show, Inside My Head Musical. You can follow him on his Instagram page. Zak, we have it says Mental Episode 1. Is this a different thing, the SoundCloud from A Bit Too Much About Me? Is that from the show, or is that something different?
That is from the show. That's the
Okay.
version where I'm narrating, and you'll hear the beginning of the mania.
Okay, let's play. I'm going to play that and post. There's some interesting things happening around me, so if you're hearing things, I apologize. I'm going to play it, and then we see, Ken, you have a question. So just stand by, Ken, as we share this SoundCloud link and play, and then we will get to your question. Here we go. This is Zak's SoundCloud Mental Episode 1 from A Bit Too Much About Me.
You are looking cute tonight. Your Britney Spears brought me to tears and hit you, baby. Maybe would you like to come back to my room and have a sing-along? You could play my keyboard well, it's thick and it is very... No? Okay, nice talking to you.
3 drinks in.
Hey, Amanda, nice to meet you. You are looking hot tonight. Your rendition of tradition was sublime. L'chaim, would you like to come back to my... No? Okay.
5 drinks in.
Hey, Nicole, or was it Jen? I think you're sexy. Wanna dance? You seem great. Yes, I am straight. What if I felt inside your... She said yes.
But the night's excitement just continued my spiral, out of control. I stayed up for most of 3 nights straight, writing a 39-page manifesto on philosophy, religion, and psychology. In my head. Each idea like a never-ending thread. Each concept bigger than the last.
Zach, it's 4 o'clock in the morning.
There is no absolute truth, because truth must always be defined for me in my current state.
How much have you been sleeping?
3 hours a night?
We'll be there in the morning.
When my parents arrived, they took me to a psychiatrist.
My mind is floating into space, and I am sorry. The light is right up in my face. I am exploring. And I am right there. The answer's right there. Somewhere.
None of this is real.
Then reality sucks.
Mr. Sandler, you are having a psychiatric episode.
Episode? What kind of...
We don't know. We're sending you to the hospital.
I didn't realize this was so serious.
It's common to lose insight.
Just give me a couple hours. I'll calm down and we can pretend this never happened.
I'm afraid we can't do that. Hey, Zach, I'm Charlie.
Who are you?
Your manic spiral? I'm the reason you're in this hospital.
Screw you.
Wait, I'm also the reason you're going to be famous.
What do you mean?
I'm in your head. I make your brain spin fast enough that you can see all these connections. Every brilliant thought you had is because of me.
Can I turn you off?
Not right now. You want to meet my friends?
Not really.
You know that's not a window, right?
My sister who follows me everywhere. Paranoia.
It's a one-way mirror. There's a group of doctors behind that mirror recording your every move. They don't want you to know.
This isn't me. I'm not crazy.
They heard that.
Zach, you are going to be the greatest in the history of the universe.
Hi, Zach.
My closest friend, Religious Visions.
You see that kid? The one with cuts all over his arm? He's God.
God? What do you mean, God?
Yeah. And that woman, the slightly overweight one, she's Mother Mary.
Hello. I'm Jewish.
I approached the nurse's station.
I'd like to call my parents.
I'm afraid you can't do that. You have to get out of here now.
Let me call them.
Not till 6 a.m., Mr. Sandler. Please sit down.
Ignore them. They're low-level jerks.
I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy.
Suddenly, I noticed that 5, 10, 15 patients had come out of their rooms and gathered in the common area, sitting, standing, all looking directly at me.
That's Jesus.
What?
He's Jesus.
This is the first time this has ever happened. I've worked here 10 years. I've never seen anything like it. 20 patients in the common area at 2 a.m. Get out of here. You've got to get out of here before they kill you.
You're unstoppable. Unstoppable!
No, they're my friends.
They're not your friends. They're your crucifiers.
I am not crazy.
Like Jesus.
I am not crazy.
Hold still.
I am not crazy.
500,000, 17 million.
That is
fantastic. Zach, oh my gosh, I love your freedom.
What is the deal? Wow. If you are watching, the link is in the chat. We will make sure to put it in the audio podcast notes so you all can follow along. But wow, what is inside your head needs to come out because that was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Ken asks, what extent does your engagement in the creative process alleviate some of the symptoms of your mental condition?
I love that. Here's a good example. Is just about a week ago, I was feeling depressed and I couldn't do anything. So I lay down on the couch and I decided I'll listen to some music. So I listened to, I don't know if you guys know Tick Tick Boom, but the song 3090 from the
Love
movie.
it.
So good. and I love John Larson. I feel like he's one of my muses. And so I listened to that, and it lifted my mood just enough to get up and sit down at that piano. And this gets to your question, Ken. So I sat down and I started writing, what does this depression feel like? And as I did it, I think I went on for 12 or 15 minutes. And by the end of that time, I actually felt better enough to stand up and go about my night.
Beautiful tool to share. I definitely journal and write, and I do find that on the other side of that, when you're able to purge all those thoughts and see those thoughts and just have them out in front of you, there's something very alleviating and therapeutic about that. That's a beautiful thing to share, yeah.
And I want to emphasize what you just said, Christina, that you don't need to be a musical theater writer to do this. Everyone can journal, and I think it's super powerful to journal.
Yes, definitely.
We talk a lot on this show about being, a human, let alone being a person who's in the creative industry. It's hard. Life is hard. There are a lot of things and forces working against us. And then, on top of that, all of the rejection, and then whatever things that we might be going through in our personal health. It's so important to find time for self-care and to find the right resources and people to care for you. So it's really cool that you are kind of taking all of that and putting it into a show. We love the idea that, shows, films, musicals can spur on conversations. Is there a plan in some way that when you make this, you do talkbacks or get them into schools? I can see, and if you haven't, let's talk, because I want to help you. I think you're considering becoming a fiscal sponsee. I'd love to hear kind of what the future of this is, and is it traveling? Yeah, tell us more about when people might be able to see this.
I do see a tour in the near future. In fact, I already have a few shows pretty close to being booked. And colleges are a big focus for me, because my first episode, as I said before, is in college, and I think it's a huge time for mental health issues arising. And I wish I had known more about mental health and about my family's history of bipolar. And so I want everyone to have that information, that awareness at that age. I also think it's great. I've done it with a number of chapters of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, and that's often in a church, or I did a gala once. I like the idea of doing this with nonprofits, with medical schools, and even with companies. The other part of it is the theater part. So I also see this happening in black box theaters potentially. I submitted it for a new work series at a theater in DC, and I could see it continuing that way. I don't know that the solo version is a Broadway show, but I would love to see it off Broadway. I think it would do well there.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track with the touring thing, and then thinking about what curriculum and partners you can have in the space for your talkbacks. That's really exciting, having these different revenues, and you got to get some merchandise. Well, let's talk more, Zach. I love this connection, and I love that you're on in Washington D.C. too. It just continues to remind us how the creative community is stretched everywhere, and we got to find these little ways, these sinews and muscles and tendons, and really build something wonderful. Is there any needs that you have at this present time before we go into our brave faves? Are you looking for things specifically, partnerships, if people want to get in touch with you to help this along? Is there anything you want to put out there, like a need, like a call to action in some way?
Yeah, I'm looking to raise some money. The most immediate stage is there's like a brand development aspect to it, because Inside My Head is now a part of a bigger business that I'm starting, which is called Spotlight. And the idea is to bring awareness to mental and emotional health topics through music. So Inside My Head is a part of that. And I also want to teach people to write their own one-person shows in the way I have. And so this brand identity discovery and development is a very important part of that. And I have someone I'd like to bring on, and I need to come up with $5,200 for that. I also have a director who I love. I've worked with him many times. Matt Cowart is his name. And we need to do about a week and a half of rehearsal. So I need to pay him. I need to pay for rehearsal spaces, for my transportation to New York. So that'll be another few $1,000s. So money is huge. My website has just been launched. I'm sure you put it in the chat already. It's insidemyheadmusical.com. And there's a link there to a GoFundMe page.
Perfect. We are all fundraising.
The other thing is if you either work for a venue, an organization, or know someone who does and wants to bring the show, please get them in touch with me, because I'm looking to book as many shows now as I can.
Absolutely.
Cool.
I think the work you're doing is life-saving for sure.
And
you,
Brave Maker is definitely interested in seeing how we can work that for you here on the West Coast. So let us know, and I'm, we'll follow up. But getting your website out there, insidemyheadmusical.com, is easy for us to do. We have many connections here in the Bay Area, but also having a price package or something. I would love to pass that along and see that. So maybe we start thinking about 2023 and what that looks like. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
You.
Cool. Zak,
I have one other.
Go ahead.
One other call for action, which is the other part of Spotlight it's called Inner Leadership, and it's this similar characterizing our inner parts ideas, but it's not just characterizing them; it's transforming them. So for me, the self-critic is a big one. We all have a self-critic, and I went through this process with it where he thought he was necessary earlier in my life because I thought I needed to prove myself in some way. But he still thinks I'm about 6 years old. So I had a conversation with him and I said, how old do you think I am? 6. Turn around. I'm actually 36. I don't need you to be the self-critic anymore. And when he heard that, he was totally shocked. You don't need me to be the self-critic? I said, no, I don't. I said, okay. And then he said, oh my God, this is so freeing. I didn't want to be the self-critic anyway. So then I say to him, okay, well, what do you want to be? And he thought and he said, I want to be the tutor. So now it's a more gentle, here's an idea. What if we did this? And so I want to bring this process to as many people as I can, this inner leadership. So I'm offering one-on-one classes and also group classes. So if I need people to sign up to really get this going. So anyone who wants to try this out, again, definitely reach out to me.
So that's at insidemyheadmusical.com on the web. You can find him at bipolar_Broadway on Instagram, and Inside My Head Musical on Instagram as well. All right, well, we're going to go to our end of the show, which is our Brave Faves.
Brave Faves. TV shows, films, books, songs, technology, clothing, podcast, food, and more. These are a few of our favorite people, places, and things. Brave Faves.
So I am sharing a really beautiful video on YouTube. It's 7 minutes. It's by the work of Tal Ben-Shahar, and it is about how to become more resilient. It is about, instead of seeing, and I like we've addressed language in this show today, instead of thinking of post-traumatic stress disorder, maybe focus your energy towards post-traumatic growth. And we all have that ability to do that within us. So it is about becoming anti-fragile. And it really is just to help you generate more happiness, more harmony, and a gentler approach to your life. And it's just how we respond to trauma. It's just reprogramming the brain, how we respond to trauma in a way that makes a more resilient human, a happier human. So I love his work. Check out the video. It's available on YouTube, and we'll share the link. That's my Brave Fave. And I'll throw it over to you, Tony.
Awesome. My Brave Fave this week is a new show called This Fool on Hulu. It's a real fun half-hour comedy about 2 cousins, one who just got out of jail and one who works for a nonprofit called Hugs Not Drugs. basically helping formerly incarcerated people find hope and health. And it's just really funny. And Chris Estrada, the creator of the show, is a stand-up comedian who was working in like a warehouse 2 years ago, doing stand-up, working in a warehouse, a very normal, unglamorous job, when he made a connection with the guy's totally blanking on my head. Oh, Fred Armiston, who heard this idea, took the pitch out, and boom, now he's got a show on Hulu, and it's getting
Oh my
tons of buzz.
gosh.
Really, really fun.
Awesome.
And it's all about this Latin community, and people I just love it. I love it. It's really fun. So take a look at it. It's a great watch. It'll make you laugh. What's yours, Zach?
It's this organization. It's now called The Upside. Very recently it was called Happify. And I subscribe to their daily newsletter. It's really great. Every day there's some bit of positive advice, like tips to alleviate stress or how to focus on a Sunday to get ready for your week. My personal favorite one is this technique of, if you spend 5 to 10 minutes a day, maybe even less, looking as far into the distance as you can, it actually improves long-term thinking and planning. And I do this on my morning walks. I look as far down to the end of the 3 blocks if I can, and I find it really works, even quite quickly.
This sounds like something that Christina would absolutely love. We will put it in the chat. It's called myhappify.com. Check that out. So good. Thank you so much, Zach, for being with us. Stand by for our final comments here. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. We love doing this show. Again, my name is Tony Gappasone. You can find me on the socials at Tony Gappasone, and my website is tonygap.com. We encourage you to become a patron of the Bravemaker community. Bravemaker is a 501c3 nonprofit. We rely on your generous contributions to help us do this work. We're seeking to do films and do live performances. In fact, if you go, speaking of one-person shows, like Zach was just saying, if you go to our website at bravemaker.com, you will see we have a one-person show coming up here in September. And it is by Teresa Donahoe, who is an Oakland / Berkeley actor. She's doing a show called Born Again in Berkeley. Tickets are only $10, and it's going to be a live show. And it's also a fundraiser for Bravemaker. So come out on Friday, September 2nd, and be inspired to do your own show. If you can't come out to that show, just consider using your phone and making a donation to Bravemaker at using the word Bravemaker to 44321, just right from your phone, or sign up for our e-newsletter at bravemaker.com/buzz. Join 25 people every month who give a donation, or become a corporate sponsor, like one of our 10 sponsors, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, Premia Street Partners, Nikon, and so many more help us do this work. Consider joining us today.
And we could not do this amazing show without our phenomenal team behind the scenes. Our producer, Amy Cohen, out of Austin, Texas. Our podcast editor, Ronald Amos. And as well as our social media manager, Carrie Alley. And tune in next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We have another amazing guest. We have Jean Franzblau. She is an intimacy professional for TV, theater, and film. And it's sure to be an amazing show. So come on back to the Bravemaker channel. That is next week, Wednesday at 4.
That reminds me, I'm so proud of our team, y'all. We're getting guests. We're booking out. We can even tell you September 7th, if you watch Hentified or The Flight Attendant, we have JJ Soria coming on the show 2 weeks from today. Mm-hmm. He is a great Latino actor. We're really glad to have him. And we have guests every week for the next month. So check it out. Go to bravemaker.com. You can see our schedule. It's going to be up on there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right, Zach.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you so
much. We look forward to hanging out again, hearing more. And honestly, let's talk about 2023 Inside My Head musical coming to the Bay. We would love to support that.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. All right. Brave stories change the world.
And you are the story. Bye, everybody.
Don't go away, Zach. Bye.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at bravemaker.org. Like, subscribe, and share. To become a monthly donor, text the word BraveMaker to 44321 or go to bravemaker.com/donate. Thanks for tuning in.